Ken Lundin, founder of RevHeat. Products and services may be different from company to company, but the path to sales growth is not. All the way from Atlanta. Welcome to the Sales Podcast, man. How the heck are you?
I am fantastic, Wes. It's great to get together, and I love this thing from Zoom. I was talking to somebody in Australia last night, London this morning, and now I get California.
Crazy, huh? Yeah, I'm talking to a guy tonight. I'm on his podcast. He's from New Zealand, I think. So, technology, man. I mean, it can divide us or it can bring us together, huh?
Yeah. I was just having a conversation with my fiance, and it's dividing us on what we do with her 10-year-old. I'll tell you that much. With the iPads, and when do you let them use them? When do you take them off? So
I
yeah,
have
I
a
think it's much younger
10-year-old.
than we want to talk about.
I have a 10-year-old still at home, and I've got 6 above her, and they're all
Saw
yelling
that
at us.
7 kids. So you truly are a master at sales. I mean, because you got to think about the dynamics in your household. I mean, you've got buying committees you don't even know about. There's politicking going on in one
Dude,
bedroom versus the living room.
dude. And then they're all texting and chatting and scheming behind the scenes. Oh my gosh. My
Yeah,
kids
they're
are like,
great. They're better than any politicians you ever see. They can see the crack, and they
oh,
will go for it.
dude, a 10-year-old is the epic salesperson, and it probably starts around 2.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, when can they start crying? When they don't like what's going on, because I
Yeah.
think that's when it starts.
Man, yeah, I just got to cut her off at the knees. I'm like, no talk, go.
It's awesome.
But it gets beaten out of us though, doesn't it? I think curiosity, I think schools, I don't know, life, like we stop being curious, we stop going for the sale, and we just accept no. You kind of
That's
notice that?
Yeah, I think, it's interesting because I've really been thinking about it a lot lately with, my children, my youngest or my kids are 22 and 25, be 25 this week. And Heather's are 19, 21, and 10. And so it's interesting because being in the profession you and I are in, I started thinking about like when he wants to ask why, my first reaction is like my parents were, which is I said so, you know? And then you think about it, and like then we complain later when we're talking to salespeople, entrepreneurs, whoever it is, that just want to go from a directive perspective and not actually be curious. Yes, it's weird, man. As parents, we're beating them out of them a little bit. Then you get to school, and it's do as I say, not as I do. And then professionally, you've got to find out how to walk the thin line. So yeah, it's super interesting how curiosity is a problem today.
Yeah. So you work with sales teams, right? You help companies grow their teams. Um, what are you seeing today? What mistakes are they making? Are they not curious? Are they fragile? Do they just not have good scripts? Is technology making it harder to sell versus easier to sell?
Goodness. I thought, weren't you supposed to ship me a couch I could lay on to answer these questions?
No, I lay on the couch to answer them. Okay, you're the guru with all the answers. Okay.
Yeah, but if I was a great therapist, I would just ask more questions about the things I knew the answers to. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's interesting. So we do, full go to market and like everything from fractional CMO, CSO type things to down on the street. Like our theory and our concept actually is we like to take things from theory to the street. And so we tend to see most of the stuff on the revenue model side of the house. Think you can divide it by persona almost like a good ICP. Like you can almost divide it to what the big mistakes are, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think the biggest mistake that's made foundationally by the entrepreneur, by the CEO, and I'm talking CEOs up to a few hundred million in sales, is they believe all the old crap people used to tell them, right? That sales is about glad handing and it's relationship, it's can you sell ice to Eskimos and do you have a book of business? And it just doesn't work that way. And so because they think it's this mysterious black box, They fail to realize that you can put systems and processes around this thing that create predictable, consistent results. I think that's the entrepreneurial problem. I
Are
don't
you
know.
saying coffee is not for closers?
Say it again.
Are you saying coffee is not for closers?
I mean, I drink it every day, and I don't close a deal every day. But I don't. I do absolutely love that movie or that scene. But yeah, it's funny too because I think the idea of PLG or product-led growth jacked a lot of people up.
How so?
Yeah, go ahead, say it.
And for those that don't know, define product-led growth.
I define it the way that CEOs and entrepreneurs believe it is. My product is so damn good that people want to buy it regardless of who I put in front of them, and they should be able to know that it's that good, and there should be no resistance to my entire sales cycle, and I should do a hockey stick growth and become a unicorn in 3 years.
So in other words, Apple. Just not everybody can emulate Apple. I can't just make like some white cord with an amorphous person dancing and it just sells. I thought everybody did that. I mean, everybody that's good does that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, sure. That's what I hear. Or at least that's what every CEO or founder believes, right? Because the vast majority are technical in nature, so they fall in love with their own stuff. And it's just not the way it works. I mean, part of the reason I got into business doing what we do, I just didn't want to see great ideas go out of business because nobody had ever heard of them.
So speaking of Apple, you know what I just read? I was talking to my family last night. I saw last week that Apple is canceling the Vision Pro, the headset, right? The $4,000 headset. And they just launched it in February, right? So 9 months.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a typo, but they spent $130 billion in R&D just on that. I literally had to go back and look twice. I'm like, clearly that's like the whole company for a decade or something. No, one product, but they're pulling the plug. I think they're gonna try to create a lower cost, but like at least they don't buy their own press. They're like, hey, this thing ain't working. Let's shift gears.
Yeah. You know that back in like high school economics, we learned this term called sunk cost. Mm,
Some
ye-
did, some learned it.
Well, yeah,
Some are still learning.
most didn't learn, and that's what that is. I had a business that I was working with for a very short time, and we broke up. And they wanted to marry their entire technology future to the Vision Pro. And I was
Mm.
like, let's just separate. I mean, there's great books out there, The Bleeding Edge versus The Leading Edge. And that was still bleeding edge, and the reviews weren't great when it hit. But kudos to them, right? I mean, pull the plug on the damn thing. But
Yeah,
here's what's more important than that we didn't say. They listened to the market.
yeah. Well, it's hard to ignore it when you're sitting on a bunch of inventory. It's like, oops.
Well, no, but
Yeah.
think about people you work with every day. Think about the normal business out there. 98% of them are what, below, I don't know, 100 million. And think about the decisions that they make, that because they started down a path, they consider it too expensive to unwind.
Sure, all the time.
You know,
So what is the opposite of product-led growth?
opposite of product-led growth, and I don't even know if it's an opposite, to be honest, but I mean, sales-led growth, whether you want to talk about it from a marketing or sales, like full go-to-market, I really just use PLG to make fun of it. I make fun of the interpretation. Because what's not product-led growth, because there's all these other things that spin off, right? So as an example, how great would it be for you if you could buy something that you could see 3D with? And by the way, eventually you'll be able to see your entire social profile media. That's how people want to sell stuff. They want to sell it based on features, forms, and functions. And so I think the thing that we ties us all together, it's client-centric, right? And that's what the vast majority of business, I think, are missing. You can even go to Amazon. And most of them are getting it right, the good ones. But even if you were to go to Amazon and you look at the product descriptions, there are many of them that are telling you this thing's 12 inches long, it's 2 inches wide, and we'll warranty it for 3 weeks. No, it's that old saying. I didn't make it up, so I'm stealing it from somewhere. Zig Ziglar probably did it, but Nobody in the history of the world has ever bought a drill because they want a drill, right? They want a hole. So what's the hole your customer wants? And I think figure that out. Yeah, can there be acquisition strategies that there's no sellers in? But where we deal with most of the time, which is B2B, and we typically deal with stuff that takes a round of approval from somebody. Yeah, you've got to look at it. It's got to be client-centric. It can't be about you. It can't be about you. Just like it can't be about you if you go get married.
Well, look, I I blew out my numbers last year. Then I got a 30% bigger number on top of that big number. And I got 2 months left in the quarter, in the year. So screw the customer. I got to sell something, man. This is all mumbo jumbo, feel good, Hare Krishna, namaste. I got to sell something or my butt's on the line. What do you say to that?
They're
Smarty
not, they're
guy,
not competing
therapist.
ideas. Yeah, they're not competing ideas because here's what I can tell you. When was the last time you truly created urgency for a prospect or a client? And they didn't
I mean,
need it. They
when I
didn't
was
think,
unarmed, you mean?
you can't. So client-centric, what's it going to solve? How's these things going to go together? Why do you need this? And what is the accomplishment? It's like that old job is to be done framework. If you're a bank selling money, well, the money is not the thing. I don't go get the money for the sake of the money. I go get it because I want to buy a building or a product or supply or these other things.
Yep. So I tell people all the time, their job is to prospect. We can't force that prospect to buy from us. I can't tell them, hey, you have, 90% blockage in that old Widowmaker. Come in today, give me your money. I'll save your life. I don't know that. I don't have that info, but all I can do is tee it up, put myself in the way and let the cards fall where they may. But it seems harder now than ever. Is it harder than ever? Is it harder to reach people, or do we just have to understand where they are and adapt? And it seems like salespeople are more unwanted than ever.
It's than ever. I don't think anyone's ever liked salespeople. But I do think, is it harder? Yeah. And the reason is, I think there's two things. The first thing people would tell you is this is the super common thread. Well, it's hard to reach people because there's so much media coming at them now. You and I saw 20 years ago, they were saying it's 6,000 pieces of information anyone sees in a day. Then the number was 30,000 pieces of it, and all that's true. But here's the real problem. Real problem is the TikToking of the world. And that's this. Everybody just makes their decisions faster, right? TikTok thinks if you've watched a video for 7 seconds, that's a worthwhile thing that moves you up in their algorithm and does all this stuff. You go social media, it's a constant scroll. Here's the issue you have, because it goes all the way to business. People are just making decisions faster on whether or not they actually care about talking to you, seeing you, or you can help them. So you better make sure that the first stuff that you do is just absolutely in alignment with things they care about.
Trying to dissect that. Like, are they really making decisions faster, or does everybody have just social media ADHD and they just aren't paying attention?
Does it change the amount of time they put into it?
No, I mean, they're not putting much time in.
Might be it, right? Whether either argument is it. Well, I think there's sort of part of this that's trained us a certain way. Like I saw a study once as an example. Super simple study. Put your homepage up for your website, right? Do the left side with a description on one and the right side with the picture of the video on one, and then flip it on the other one where you've got the text on the right side, the image on the left. Which one sells more and why? It's the text on the left because Amazon and others have taught us to buy that way. They've taught us what to expect. They've taught us how to view the thing. So maybe they were both wrong. Maybe it's social conditioning and we don't even know that it's happening.
Yeah. It's interesting on the text. I mean, I approach things as a writer. I believe, I know when we see things and we play it in our mind. The spoken word, we we're still translating even as we're reading. We're creating these images in our mind. What we're telling ourselves. And yes, images can enhance and deepen the message, but at the end of the day, that what you say matters. And I think people have never really been good communicators, and now they think AI is sufficient, and AI generated images are sufficient, and they're struggling. Um, so that's interesting on the text. Um, what are you having your people do, like to reach out to that B2B decision maker who's more distracted than ever, pulled in all these different directions? How are they getting through to them?
I think we've got to move past the sterilization of information. We oftentimes talk about the copy that's written by bad marketers, not obviously guys like you, but we talk about the copy written by salespeople who, by the way, have never been trained in how to write copy.
No, I mean,
Right.
most people haven't.
We talk about how these things work, and it's interesting because if you really look at it, I heard this from Matt Hines like 6 years ago. I was on his podcast, or he was on something I did. He said, "I've never seen a building sign a check, but we write all of our copy as if it's this corporate distilled thing." And the advent of AI into the world, the big question in sales right now, right, is it gonna take over for sales? I'd argue that there's some people who should be concerned about that, because if you're doing a low-level job that doesn't add value and isn't client-centric and don't know how to have consultative conversations, yeah, your job's in jeopardy. Not yet. Because what you can learn to do today is figure out process and framework, things that work. We ran a study on emails as an example. So we did a study on emails. We shot them out to the world, and we said, AI, you do the thing. So AI, this is over here. Then we had this other particular set of emails that worked really well already. The emails that went out by themselves that AI created, did all the sourcing, all the intent data, et cetera, had just your normal abysmal open rates and click-through rates. It was just as bad as if I did it, but you know what everyone wants? They want speed. On the other hand, the other side that was already working on a successful framework increased the total reply rates, engagement rates, and appointment rates by more than 40%. That's what people are missing about AI. We keep looking for quick hacks, but you still have to have the foundational stuff in place.
Yeah. Yeah, and most people don't have the foundation. They fall into sales almost as it was a plan C or D or E or F. Then
Most of the time,
some get
not even a
lucky.
plan.
Yeah, some get lucky. Right time, right place. Got along with the boss. They hit their numbers. They make some money. They believe their own press. They're promoted to manager. They fail upward, and it's just rinse, wash, and repeat. And people leave companies, cross pollinate, and eventually maybe they get a little rhythm, find their momentum, and get decent at sales, at least not horrible, and it just continues. It's terrible.
Yeah, and I think companies should take a little bit of ownership.
Well, sure.
You and I, like, we have done sales training. Like, what percentage of companies do you think below a couple $100 million actually actively put some sort of sales enablement or training program in place? Do you have any idea?
Most don't. And those that do, I mean, I was in corporate America for a long time. And I realized, like, I never got sales training. I got product training. I got CRM training. Ops would come in and tell us about the widget. IT would come in and tell us how to use the CRM. Marketing would come in and tell us about the brochures we have and how to use a PowerPoint. But the sales training I bought on my own.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it. So one, I think we have to get rid of the idea that you're inherently good or bad at sales. That's true, but it can be trained to some extent. We did a study last year and said the state of sales skills in 2024. And by that study, our study says about 50% of sellers don't have the basic skill sets to be successful in sales.
Well, yeah, at least.
So you add in that, that's the first thing. So that tells you already that 1 out of 2 aren't probably gonna be good. And then the secondary component of that is, how often do you walk into a company and they have all their sales stuff put together? Like, they have a sales process that's actually managed. We watch gates, we figure out the process, we talk to people, we have expectations about the customer journey. Yeah.
Nope. Nope. I've seen, and it's exploded, but an over reliance on tools. Um, Usually there's a conflict between the tools. I've seen companies, literally big companies, $100 million companies, have people on the team whose sole responsibility was to manually reproduce the data because ops had a different CRM than sales. And because of some self-imposed government security they thought they had to live with, they couldn't let the systems talk. And I mean, but then they'll just add stuff on top of stuff, email tools, landing page tools, CRMs, text messaging, just on and on and on and on. I'm like, oh my gosh, people. I mean, they would literally be better just ripping all that out. Go to a free HubSpot CRM and just start doing outreach. But that's too brute force. It's too inelegant. So they're gonna buy some more SaaS products. That'll fix it.
We tell our salespeople, our sales managers, leaders, entrepreneurs, it's not prospecting or something else. It's prospecting and everything else. And I can
Yes.
tell you in my own case, like, I took my eye off the ball. We spent 2023 and it was a rough year for us because, we had $1.5 million in contracts. And for a small agency, that's awesome. Like, set up, not contracts, but proposals in the first quarter of last year. Stop prospecting because we were all worried. And then I'm just like, oh, hell, how are we going to deliver this? And then those normally close at 90%. Lost all of it. It already signed up to how we service it, to the technology stacks, to and then, it's one of those things that even those of us in the profession, we still got to run our businesses. Got to the end of the year, made a third of what I made the previous year, one of the worst years we've had from just an earnings perspective. And so I said in 2024, I'm going to make a change. And that change was this. The only investments I made were prospecting and. They were all about, we build pipeline no matter what in the hell is going on in our business. And I think the challenge you have with most companies is that the CEO is so anxious to get out of this thing they don't understand, give the responsibility to somebody else. They don't have enough of an education to talk to them about what their actual expectations are and how they can actually help guide them to meet them. And then it becomes this thing where it's, you're up 50% this quarter and you're down 22% below quota the next.
So what do you mean you took your eye off the ball? So you got a big pipeline. What were you literally just worried about fulfillment? And so, like, did you consciously stop prospecting so you wouldn't, outkick the coverage?
Yeah, to some extent, that was what it was. It was, and we're not big enough that I can do that. Let me say that nobody's big enough to stop doing that. But we're not big enough to stop that. But we literally started looking at fulfillment and delivery and how do we, and we're going to need this new tech stack. So I bought did this, I don't know, probably spent $180,000 on technology and and did all of that.
What'd you get, like massage beds or what? What the hell, man? Did you buy some Vision Pros?
Would have actually been a better investment in many cases.
Did you buy everybody Vision Pros and sous vide?
I bought everything that everybody else is going to go ahead and sunset. But yeah, took the eye off the ball. We stopped prospecting. We worried about delivery and hired on headcount to get ready for it because we had stuff that we had to do bespoke. But I think where I would align this to most other businesses is the most other businesses find a place they're comfortable playing, and it's not usually sales. So in any moment they can, They try to push sales to the other side of the room, put it in a corner, when what they should be doing is leaning into it to understand it. Because the truth is, as you said on your website, and as we've heard said for decades before, nothing happens until a sale is made.
Yep. 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 So what were some specific changes you made? Did you assign like activity numbers to the sales team? Did you assign yourself some prospecting numbers? Are you still like a player coach? So what did you do differently this year?
First thing I did was I sought to understand the front end motions. Where we kill it as RevHeat is kind of two things, kind of the fractional CMO, like putting all the systems and stuff in place for go-to-market is it's kind of the secondary thing. But on the sales side, where we kill it is if you've got a team, we'll triple, quadruple, quintuple their win rates on new business. Like that's kind of it. But that starts kind of discovery meeting or first meeting after. And the world has changed so much since I used to do lead gen personally. The first thing I had to do is I did what I would tell our CEOs to do when it comes to understanding sales process and methods. I leaned in, I started to understand it, and as Google and Microsoft made massive changes. As I saw in probably 2 episodes ago, you had a gentleman on who's fantastic about email deliverability. The question not being asked right now is, are my emails even getting through? Because Microsoft and Google are just absolutely stomping down on that. So I leaned into that process. Within that, once I started to understand that, we then figured out how we were going to scale, how we're going to do it, because it's more than just telling your sellers to send out 20,000 emails. You've got to set up the whole back end domain structure and how many emails can you send off each account and everything else. That was kind of the first thing. Second thing was, took a testing approach to everything we did, but I was testing intentionally for specific metrics. So we started doing digital advertising and we're testing and we're looking at those and we're reviewing those on a daily basis. And then I also put numbers on myself as far as, hey, this is how many sales meetings I need to have every single week. Because regardless of whether or not it's being produced by my team or not, I have an obligation for the health of the business. And I think that's another thing any CEO can do. You're a rainmaker. You're the most influential person in your organization. 2 meetings a week that you're intentional about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's cool. Were you able to improve your metrics on cold email? Because I see that it's just a big headwind for a lot of people right now.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Our metrics from a cold email, from an open rate and a reply rate, engagement rate, have been fantastic on text only, which is interesting. Because
So
we
like
had,
and a cold text, like
well,
first
no, not
first.
text. I'm sorry, like cold copy, like just nothing else, no images, no videos.
Oh, gotcha. Yes.
Um, so that's, and they're through the roof, open rates about 50%, and we're sending pretty much en masse. Like I say, we're testing. That's going well, but we're attracting a different type of clientele than we typically want. And so I believe when it comes to prospecting or most things that are changes, I want more before better. So let's use the message. Let's do a pretty good list, and then we'll take all the calls, and then we'll start to add friction in order to qualify the calls more effectively. But let's make sure that we get messaging right first. And so, so what we were able to do, on cold email, all that's improved substantially. With, the number of appointment books has been, probably in the area of 140. So that's been great. Because that's all, as a small agency, you don't need much more than that. The other thing it's done, it's allowed us, our business will be up almost 200% year over year. So, it's, leaning back into that, what's been really, really cool about it is the comfort of knowing the pipeline's there and knowing that I can see 4 to 6 months ahead and what our actual cash flow is going to be with 90% certainty has allowed me to make decisions about where we'll invest in order to improve the other things in the client experience. Because otherwise it's a swag, man. Like if you don't know where your money's you don't know what you're going to sell in the next 90 days. I mean, good luck.
So cold email is the first touch, and then is the call to action, do they book and then you like a round robin assign to the sales
You
team?
assign it through a round robin. The CDA, the call to action is book, which we're in the process of changing. because I think that's one of the friction points that we need to add to get to the type of client that we serve best. Because, we probably made the same mistake that a bunch of your listeners are making today. And that is, here's the problem with call to action, or a call to action that actually asks for them to book an appointment. The problem with that is you're only getting that 1% to 2% of the market who's already trying to figure out the problem by themselves. And you're so far down the funnel that you don't have influence, right? And it's interesting because at that level of the funnel, those leads are actually not as qualified as if somebody had entered in through a downloaded report 6 months ago, continued to see our content across social and email, and then books an appointment. People who have had no success in marketing, I'd love your opinion, but if they've had no success in marketing, they all want it immediately. So therefore, they just try to get people to book an appointment. And then 90 days from now, they cancel the budget because it didn't work the way they wanted it to. So we've shifted and we're moving most of our marketing efforts to the top of the funnel and then using the rest of our marketing infrastructure so that people can get to know, like, and trust us.
Interesting. So you're saying they're coming to you almost too pre-sold, so they're like just coming to you for that second or third bid.
Yeah,
And
or
now,
or they have might even be a better way to say that, to be truthful. Might actually be this. They know they have a problem. It's so late in the problem, like they've been thinking about it for so long. They've convinced themselves in many cases that whatever is done won't work. And so the close rate on those is substantially lower for us than the close rate on something that's been following us on LinkedIn for, a year, or somebody who came through us through another social channel where they got to see and feel our daily content instead of we just happened to hit them. Now, the emails are interesting because everybody says this to me, Ken, we never respond to this type of thing. We know that it's decent, right? But we had to start analyzing. There's a certain amount of friction in us having to take an extra number of appointments. I'd rather be efficient. It's just like that argument nowadays. I don't think sales forces are going to hire at the ridiculous rate that they did over the years. They're going to look for a smaller group of tiger team who can be more successful and carry the boat.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting what you're saying because it's, I like to catch them late in the game, but obviously they have to be optimistic that they can solve the problem. But yeah, and that's that's a mentality thing, It's like, are you committed to making a change? Is this hopeless? Or are you just going through the motions because you feel like you have to, because that's the problem and you can't report to the board that you haven't looked into it? I mean, so it's like, yeah, we got termites. It's humid here. We'll never get rid of termites. So we're just going to make do. We got some duct tape, it's what? No. But, yeah, they got to wanna, right? And they got to
Yeah.
believe. And so it's interesting.
I think it's that environment. I just don't believe. Let's put it this way. That group, as far as the ones we've gotten through that particular outreach channel, it's been very difficult to get them past nice to have.
Yeah. Sure.
The ones who have come, great. But I would say, sort of like in the kind of the movie or the book Atlas Shrugged, I would say we do the best with prime movers.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. I'm rereading that now. I posted it the other day, like 2 weeks ago on Instagram, and a lot of people are asking, who is John Galt? So are you back to running ads? And like Google Display, LinkedIn, like what's working?
Yeah, we'll do Google probably starting again, probably the end of the first quarter, because it's just cheaper to test via the social media platforms. Like, as an example, don't listen to people too much is what I would tell most entrepreneurs when it comes to marketing. Because everybody's going to tell you the crap that they did that works, that didn't really work, and they're going to forget to tell you all the stuff they didn't do. Facebook's got, I don't know, 700 trillion people on it or whatever it is in their network. And
That is fake news. Look, there's not more than 603 trillion. Okay. I mean, stop exaggerating.
So with that, like we do a lot of the testing for messaging because we're just looking for behavior. So the difference is, we do digital ads. Like we have our agency that we work with they'll test the headline and that'll take a week and a half. And then we'll test the sub headline. And then we're literally constructing advertisements by activities of people. And so we're seeing what they do and the behaviors they have instead of what they say they'll do.
For sure.
So we test through that process. We're doing digital ads. Yeah, we're doing them across social right now. And it helps too, because we just launched a new newsletter called Get Sales Fit, which is free. And so, we're able to get to some people that way. We've added, a couple thousand people. So, top of the funnel, mostly social media advertising, Google and Google Display are next. LinkedIn will come in probably end of Q1.
Cool. Yeah, it's interesting because at the end of the day, I mean, pretty much everybody is on Facebook. Even though you may have a B2B sale, it's a complex sale, selling to the enterprise or whatever. That dude's on Facebook.
Well, and even if you do nothing else, like I'll tell you this, like I think you know this, the cheapest form of advertisement you have is retargeting. So if you do nothing else and you got them to come to your website from somewhere else, just retarget them across Google and the social media channels. And then I'd be an idiot if I didn't say out loud, like, and if you're not looking at TikTok, and I know there's all the hubbub of China's going to take them back or whatever. I'll tell you what, TikTok's still one of those places where it's cost effective to run some ads.
Interesting. All right, fine. Twist my arm.
Well, only if you want. Hey, the only way you should do it is if you've got good copy, and you want high returns for a low investment. If those things aren't attractive, then go run it on LinkedIn, because then you can make sure that you have high cost and lower ROI to start.
So are you making those ads where you're walking and you're stripping as you're talking and you're throwing axes in the factory and slapping people in the ass? Is that your video?
No, but what a great idea.
No, honey, it was just for the ad. I didn't want to slap her ass, but okay.
No. It's I don't know. Our stuff's not too crazy. It's it makes sense, and I'm having a little bit of fun because the new thing that we launched was called Get Sales Fit, and in that we're actually going straight to like sellers, and it's like, hey, you don't have to just be a number anymore. And so we're focusing on the totality, like how do you actually make your number while at the same time staying healthy and good life outside of work, because everybody seems to think they got to choose in sales, professional or personal happiness.
So what is that? I'm linking to your free ebook, so we'll talk about that here in a second. But is Get Sales Fit something? It's a separate thing?
Yeah, it's a separate thing. So the two differentiations, the book that we have right now, and I can give you the link for the other one, is called Strategic Selling Unleashed. And that's our sales methodology that B2B companies use, and they've sold $1 billion with it. Get Sales Fit was launched just before we booked this podcast. So that's why you wouldn't have heard of it yet. But it's a newsletter currently. And it's a free newsletter that you can get, and I can get the links so your audience can have it. At what it is, the weekly newsletter, in 5 minutes or so a week, you're going to get something that's going to be more about you. Like what we've been able to do is when you and I walk into a business, right, our financial relationship is with the company, right? And so we can be honest and have empathy and do the stuff, but we can't be brutally honest sometimes with the individuals. And I wanted a forum where we could go in and where I didn't have to give a damn about any management structure, any management levels. And I wanted to be able to say, look, you want to be better at this, you want to have a better life, we're going to talk about all that stuff. And I don't have to worry about whether or not I'm actually getting paid by somebody in your company. And so we launched this, and quite frankly, I just know how hard it's to be in sales. And the reason I'm still in this is for the stories of, the guy that I took from 60,000 in income and on a performance improvement plan to 600,000 3 years later, got to move his wife and his family to a new home, and they got to choose if she worked, and they got to put their kids in a great school. And I've honestly been fighting. I've been fighting for the opportunity to make more of those stories. That's where real success is, the ability to help people change their lives.
Cool. Well, yeah, give me that link. You're offering a free copy of your book, right? So drivingtraction.com. So I'm going to link into that. I'm linking to your LinkedIn. I'm linking to RevHeat.com, but the book is drivingtraction.com. So tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, you go to drivingtraction.com and it puts you to the book. That's confusing, I know, but go to drivingtraction.com. It'll get you to the free PDF, which we sell on Amazon right now. So it's been out there for a little while. But the book's Strategic Selling Unleashed. And, a lot of people are like, well, what's your sales methodology? And so I guess I'd say this. Strategic Selling Unleashed is a combination of like MedPick, Medic, Spin, Challenger Sale, rolled all into one, put a scoring system on it, and it becomes prescriptive and objective. And so we put this together and we ran it through about a year and a half of testing 6 years ago. Hey, does this scoring system really drive higher closing rates? And after 222 opportunities, the answer was, hell yeah, it does. And it's just another one of those things where not everybody, sellers or CEOs or companies, are going to work with us. But you want to see the sales methodology we've used that absolutely crushes it B2B for anything from kind of above 50,000 up to multi-million-dollar deals. This book will show you an interesting way to think about it from a process perspective. And it's client-centric, human-centered. I'm proud of it. It's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, cool. I just signed up for it.
Well, because you had me on, I might even be talked into sending you an actual copy with a signature.
Woo! All right. My address is coming your way.
Perfect. I'll even pay the post.
Yeah. Look, I don't care what they said about you when they booked you. You're all right, man.
I'm sure they had lots to say.
All right. So I'm linking to that, drivingtraction.com. Final words. What should our listeners do? They're on a bike, they're on a treadmill, they're on a train, they're on a plane. They finally get somewhere they can take action. What do you want them to do? Get the book, go to your website. What do you want them to do?
Tell you this. There's two things. I'd probably sign up for the newsletter, to be honest. We've got about a quarter of that newsletter that's CEOs are signing up for. We got another 15% that are sales managers. So it's applicable across all things because we don't pull the punch. Let's sign up for that newsletter first, because I just think that's the place you're going to get daily tidbits. And quite frankly, you can get the book, but I don't know, are you going to read it? So honestly, let me send you a 5-minute thing on the newsletter. So that's first. And then second is, if you mention you saw Wes and I and you want to hit me up on LinkedIn, I'll even give you 30 minutes of my life for free, and just me, not a sales guy. Let's talk about your business. And I promise you'll leave with something actionable with absolutely zero sales on the back end.
All right. Well, I'm linking to both. Shoot me that newsletter and I'll plug that in the outro. But it's lunchtime for you, man. It's mid-morning snack time for me.
I'm not. Yeah,
so I got it.
I'm ready.
Go. I'm a grown boy.
Here's another thing. Here's the other daily tip. Man, don't come out of the gate so hot on Mondays, because all of a sudden for the last like 3 months, I've got like 8 hours of calls and like 12 seconds of breaks. I don't recommend that highly for anyone else out there.
Yeah, leave some white space on your calendar. Amen. All right, man. Ken Lundin, all the way from Atlanta. Rev Heat. Thanks for coming on the show, man. It's been great.
Appreciate it.
All right, man. Have a good day.